Conscious Thought, Episode 51, July 21st, 2025. Expecting to experience a semblance of self-control. Christina Herlofson's Synergetics Research Project. If only everything could get back to normal before it got so out of hand, as the world seems to be working against us. Anybody could wish on any day as the impact of reality hits home, disturbing one's sense of well-being before it gets worse. But here we are, starting a new day this morning, expecting to experience a semblance of self-control, and yet we are still immersed in the inherited detriments of the PRJWBCHM, with synergetics as our anticipatory design science reality also provides us with very different information from what the mainstream multimedia and predominant education system promises. Not only is our research writing progress advantaged by synergetics models for the geometry of thinking, conscious thought episode videos with readable text similarly to a page in a book, accompanied by audio tracks for listening and viewing with reference links to be copy-pasted, is for one's online convenience, while pages in a published book fill volumes to be read or collected on bookshelves. There seems to be online permanence, if it is true that once uploaded to the internet, it will always be available for investigative purposes. Conscious Thoughts, Episode 50, presented two comparative hierarchical matrices for our 21st century generations to consider. Explicitly, the Millennium's PRJWBCHM, politics, religion, justice, war, belief, complex, hierarchical matrix, and 20th century synergetics, IVMOFCH, isotropic, vector, matrix, operational field, cosmic hierarchy is for our most comprehensive survival stratagems. While there seems always to be some punitory degree of disadvantage from the PRJWBCHM with the IVMOFCH in our metaphysical generalized conceptioning fields of thought, we are synergetically advantaged, especially when contributing relative inputs to TEUCP, the evolving universal communications process, mindful of a world that can work for everybody. With respect to hoping for normalcy, instead of quibbling over argumentative incongruities from any person's point of view, let's be delighted to learn from our Buckminster Fuller Synergetics Dictionary that, in quotes, 0 equal normal, end quote. Some of us have memories stored in our neuronal circuits to be recalled that it is size alone that can come to zero, not the conceptuality. Once unobviously, but now awareness of this generalized conceptioning is advantaged by Bucky's jitterbug model, also known as the vector flexor. It can be found online among many vector model kits, some of which are not relevant to this research project. In quotes, the truth is zero, end quote. Awareness of this clarity sets the anticipatory design science progressions that attempt to be exact, especially with respect to the J factor, swearing to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, most likely with one's hand on the Bible. But inevitably, the iteration involves the individual's thought and perceptual observations that tend to placate the justice system for many inexplicable reasons, none of which refer to the vector equilibrium as the empty set tetrahedron. The idea of doing so seems utterly preposterous, especially since justice per se, from millenniums ago, was attributed with the highest societal status, supposedly, of the wisest men at that time in ancient history. It has held its position for thousands of years, with no indication that it can liberate its punitory purposes from imprisoning mindsets. This continues, as humans everywhere are subjects of the misguiding false premises that exclude awareness of universal integrity, second power congruence of gravitational and radiational constants correlating to the conceptuality of the topological system's absolute relative abundance. Now we learn from Arbitminster Fuller's dictionary site, AAUW Journal, May 1965, page 176, in quotes, that it was more difficult, socially and scientifically, to discover zero than to discover one or two, end quote. In other words, it is as scientific to discover there is no formula as it is to discover a formula. Fortunately, we are synergetically apprised of the human imagination's inherent ability to formulate conceptually, which requires a geometric topological model if we hope to improvise omnicomprehensive innovations correlating to depending only on trial and error explored survival stratagems without having to go through the PRJWBCHM inherited detriments, regardless how seemingly harmless the governing systems are. Especially since metaphysical intellect has learned of the eternal design that is intellectually governing eternally regenerative universe. It is possible to imagine a different learning environment for the youngest children, whose innate curiosity does not need to be fed tons of imaginary grotesque figures and incessant video games for furthering the J factor and the W factor that incite addictive preoccupations with those exploitations in the value of doing harm. It misuses the computer technologies as exploitations in the value of doing harm, albeit not signifying such involvement, as if humans from impressionable childhood must be designed to decimate each other, whether on a game board environment or as emulating fun-filled activity is imperative to prove readiness, primarily for the future necessity of such abilities, especially in respect to departments of defense where the utmost secrecy protects the nations in competitive survival everywhere on Earth. As we can explore in Synergetics 1003.11, in quotes, isotropic means everywhere the same, which also means omnidirectionally the same, end quote. At first glance, the idea that everywhere is the same seems utterly appalling, since variety is said to be the spice of life. But let's delve deeper. With the isotropic vector matrix and metaphysical generalized conceptioning fields of thought, since it provides the actual and only systematic scheme of reference which agrees with all experimentally discovered behaviors of nature. Nature logically includes human nature, and what our species, humans of a mind, are designed in principle not only to eventually realize, but also to improve our trial and error explored survival stratagems, mindfully of a world that can work for everyone. Unbeknownst to us before, our humanity has been subjectively wrangling with repositioning the power play. Now we learn of an omni-synergetic, omnidirectional, omnirational, most economic coordinate system. Added to it is our newest awareness of the PRJWBCHM acronym, to be compared with Synergetics' IVMOFCH, Isotropic Vector Matrix Operational Field Cosmic Hierarchy, and zero. So all three of these potentially clarifying thought processing incentives are totally different from before attempting to set in order the anticipatory design science explorations in the geometry of thinking. Considering regenerative nuclear centers takes getting used to it. But the conceptuality of this synergetics awareness reinitiates clarification as the research writer no longer depends on various multimedia that is obsoletable. Relevant links: Synergetics Table of Contents, Synergetics 162 Generalized Design Science Exploration, Synergetics 205.20 Vector Equilibrium, Synergetics 216.02 Significance of Isotropic Vector Matrix, Synergetics 251.50 Discoveries of Synergetics Inventory, Synergetics 440.01 Vector Equilibrium as Zero Model, Synergetics 445 Zero Phase, Synergetics 470.03 all space filling transformations of vector equilibrium. Synergetic 610.21, omnitriangular symmetry 3 prime structural systems. Synergetics 1003.11, isotropic vector matrix reference. Synergetics 1053.61, the octahedron. Synergetics 1055.03, icosahedral 20ness. Synergetics Dictionary, the mind of R. Buckminster Fuller. Bucky's Jitterbug. Until next time, thank you from Christina Herlovson.